What's going on, guys? I know it's been a little while. I'm back with another build video. This time it's going to be on Touch of Malice for the solo players. I know some of those out in the Destiny community have LFG'd into King's Fall and have eventually gotten their Touch of Malice to drop. I don't recommend using this ornament. This part really makes it hard to see what you're shooting at. I can show you that here in a minute. But this build is going to be focusing around using Touch of Malice for solo players. Obviously it's going to be on solar, so you'll have all your healing. And we're going to be using a very underrated exotic that doesn't see much use nowadays, especially in any in-game PvE content. I feel like it would be very useful for that sort of thing, but it is Sanguine Alchemy, and if you don't know what this thing does, its perk is called Blood Magic. Weapon kills while standing in any rift, pause the rift's countdown, extending its duration. Further kills maintain and extend the length of the pause. So you can already see where I'm going with this right now, because obviously Touch of Malice is very powerful, and that one round at the end of the magazine gives you a very hefty damage buff. And then on top of that, we are running Callus Mini Tool, my crafted version, and just any solar heavy really will do. I just gotta rock it on for right now. And of course, for our aspects, we're running Icarus Dash. Also, while airborne, rapidly defeating targets with your super or weapon grants cure. So if I'm in the air and I happen to get a couple of kills, I might be able to heal myself. I mean, it's really not all that important. It's more of a mobility than anything. And then we have Touch of Flame. Your healing solar firebolt and fusion grenades have enhanced functionality, but we're going to be using this for the healing aid. Improves the strength of cure and restoration effects applied, so it will give you restoration ×2. For all of our abilities, we're just running Incinerator Snap, and the reason that is because we're running Ember of Singeing. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Wider area of effect. That means we'll scorch more targets within a bigger radius. And we're running Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant for that damage buff. Then we have Ember of Ashes. You apply more scorch stacks to targets. So if we were able to hit enough targets with the melee, we could cause them to ignite. And then we are running Ember of Empyrean. Solar weapon or ability. Final blows extend the duration of restoration and radiant effects applied. So on top of that, I was going to run a Font of Might build, but what I'm actually going to do is run Well of Life, which is picking up a solar elemental well increases regeneration for a short period of time. And what we're going to do, change this to solar boots. So we have 3 wells of life, and then we have elemental time dilation. If you don't know what this is, it is elemental well mods that grant you time limited benefits can now stack, increasing the duration of the effect for each copy of the mod you have equipped. So people get that and bountiful wells mixed up a lot of the time, especially if you don't use mods. Bountiful wells is elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have equipped. So if you were to run something like Melee Wellmaker and only have one of them on and not have bountiful wells on, it would only spawn one. But if you were to put bountiful wells on and then put 3 Melee Wellmakers on, it will spawn 3 solar elemental wells or whatever it is, whatever subclass you have on. So that is pretty much the build that I have for right now, which is pretty much all around healing myself on top of running Touch of Malice to keep myself alive while using the weapon. So we're going to go ahead and go check this out and see how it works out for us. The only issue I think I'm going to have is keeping my melee up. Let me see. I might be able to change this actually. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so we're going to change this. We went from applying more scorch stacks to Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy. So by default, in lower end content like this, on just traveling to destinations, we're going to be killing things with melee. So it's going to be automatically giving us back some of our melee recharge. So we really don't have an issue with that. This is what I mean by the Touch of Malice ornament. I really don't recommend this ornament. It's very cool outside of the sights. I think these sites are awful. I don't know why they're like that. Just place down the rift. Once you get those kills, you can see blood magic start to pop up. And when you get kills inside of the rift, you can see it extend that timer. And we're at 14 seconds. So right there, we have a 24-second rift cooldown. Yep, look at that. Our rift is going to last forever, but we really don't need to be in it for that long, especially in things like this. But higher end content it's going to be a godsend, being able to heal yourself that often, especially if you're running something like the fragment that allows you to get ability recharge for healing your allies or buffing them with radiant. That's going to be another really good fragment to run. That's what's good about this build, is that you can run this in higher end content as well. It's not just going to be something like a lost sector on some random planet. This is going to have uses pretty much everywhere, especially if you're running a weapon as powerful as Touch of Malice. See, watch. You're pretty much unkillable. Like, even with all of these ads shooting at me, like, I'm really not even killable right now, to be honest. But this is lower end content. So, wait for that to go away. Yeah, see, they're doing decent amounts of damage to me. Go ahead and get some of this back. There's that unrelenting procking on my Callous mini tool. And I already got my melee back. And then do restoration ×2 with the healing. Yeah, see, it's really hard to heal through the Touch of Malice damage. But like right now, having that healing up with Well of Life and restoration ×2, it's pretty insane. Because like right now, I have about 10 seconds where I could just go nuts with Touch of Malice, and it's doing little to no damage to me. And then scorching targets with Callous Mini Tool allows me to get my melee back a lot faster. On top of, after getting my melee, I can now get the Well of Life back. And then start healing myself on top of Resto ×2 with the grenade. And then it's pretty much just a really simple gameplay loop. At least in my eyes. It's something you can really catch on to and use really easily, even if you are a solo player. See, because Resto ×2 by itself is pretty strong, but adding that Well of Life to it just makes it a little bit more powerful for that high-end content, especially if you like to solo certain things. Yeah, see, that's pretty powerful. Then I'll show you what I got on my Callous mini tool after this, because I know some people are probably interested. But of course, with Touch of Malice, you got your little blight. And then, of course, with Warlock, I like building into Resilience, Recovery, and Discipline. That's probably going to be your best bet for a stat roll. I'm not really quite too sure about Hunter or Titan yet. I haven't made any builds around survivability with them, but that is pretty much my recommendation as a solo player if you want to use Touch of Malice. It's just to run Sanguine Alchemy. I know I didn't use it a lot there, but it's very, very useful for that sort of thing. And if you don't want to use Sanguine Alchemy, I guess you could go with something like the Stag, because I know the Stag's resist in the Rift does help. And then I guess you could run something like Stasis and then go with resist around crystals. I guess I could go ahead and make a build around that. So what we're going to run is Whisper of Rending. Kinetic weapons do increase damage to stasis crystals and frozen targets. That is specifically to deal more damage to frozen targets. We are not going to be breaking stasis crystals here because we're going to need them. While you're near frozen targets or a friendly stasis crystal, you take reduced damage from targets. And then nearby stasis shards track your position, obviously, so you don't have to run after anything. And then collecting a stasis shard grants a small amount of overshield. But in terms of mods, I really don't know what to run here. I was thinking running Reaping Wellmaker, and we're going to run another Well of Tenacity. 3 Well of Tenacities with Elemental Time Dilation, and then Reaping Wellmaker. So for those of you that do not know what these do, after activating your class ability, your next weapon final blow on a combatant spawns a Void Elemental Well. So you don't need to be killing with a void weapon to have this spawn. This works perfectly with Frost Pulse. Casting your Rift generates a shockwave that freezes nearby combatants, and then it directly synergizes with Whisper of Chains, and it directly correlates with the Stag. Rift grants damage reduction, grants Rift energy when critically wounded. We're going to try this out and see how this works. And the reason why I'm running this is specifically just to kill those enemies that are frozen. Build into action. So now we have resist ×3. They're doing like little to no damage to me, but then again, they're going to do little to no damage to me anyway. Forgot to mention this does have unrelenting. So getting those multiple kills will heal me. I want them to get me low so I can actually show the rift generation. So that resist really doesn't matter. It's just in case you don't have a rift or a glacier nade or able to freeze targets. You'll have that extra bit of resist on the side there. But you can allow yourself to become critically wounded to get your rift back, but I really wouldn't recommend that in in-game content, personally. Then we got resist ×4, which is some pretty insane damage resist. But like I said, you do have to build into this. It's not something you can just put on. It's not like a couple of mods and then you're good to go. This is something you really have to spec into. But yeah, I think this one is very powerful as well. And it also has ad clear potential. And as you can see, that damage resist really allows us to tank a lot of the touch of Malice. Let's freeze him. And that's the build.